Welcome to the Road to Traveled podcast, episode 21. My name is AJ Pelletier, and thank you everybody for tuning in. I've got a great guest today, singer and guitarist from the band Psycle, Mr. Seth Salois. I probably didn't pronounce that right, and we just talked about this off air too, but I am so sorry. Can you just one more time?
Sure, it's Seth Salois. It's not even easy for me.
It sounds a lot better than Pelletier because I mean, like, you know, I don't know. My name is so generic white, you know what I mean? Like, but anyway, how you doing, man? How are you and your loved ones holding up during the pandemic?
We're doing pretty good. You know, we've definitely figured out how to change things up and try different things and stay busy, stay positive as much as as you possibly can. But it's been good. You know, we've definitely found some things that we didn't think we'd enjoy doing together and trying out and stuff. So that was really thinking outside the box. I think was the most important thing, especially during this time. So,
Are you working right now or?
I am. I was always working. I ended up just working remote instead of working from the office, which is good and bad. It's tough. I'm literally at my kitchen table with two laptops going, so there's not a lot of separation. But at the same time, it's nice being home and being with the family and not missing out on stuff.
Gotcha. So what do you do for work, if you don't mind me asking?
So I've worked in behavioral health for over 20 years since I got out of college, and right now I actually work for the Rhode Island Army National Guard. I am the the alcohol and drug control officer and also the suicide prevention program manager for them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's got to be very rewarding to be able to help out ones in need like that.
It definitely is. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I salute you, sir, because that's a really, really great thing that you're doing, and it's kind of what we do with this podcast too. I mean, like I've been down a dark road many a times in my life. I suffer from depression and everything, and as I've told my listeners previously, my lowest was probably a couple of years ago, going back to therapy and everything, and cause I had to, if I didn't, something was going to happen, and not in a good way. So, and I guess this podcast is just me connecting with an audience that might be going through stuff too, and to also let everybody know life's there's another day, you know what I mean? Like the sun's always going to come out, things might not always be bad, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And we like to have fun here sometimes too, so
you have to, humor is amazing. From one thing I've learned and when working in the field for as long as I've had, I mean, even I've been around the field since I was probably 5 years old. My mom was involved in it too. Humor goes a long way. And the appreciation that what we go through doesn't discriminate at all. And I think that's the darkness, but also the beauty of it is that it's really about everyone, fighting the same thing.
I couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. So you're from Rhode Island, you said. What was growing up like for you?
So growing up, it was good. I was big into sports. My dad was a really good athlete, and my dad was my coach, which is good and bad for all of us sometimes. But my parents got divorced like around when I think I was 12. So going into pretty much the end of my 8th grade freshman year, which is the best time for it to happen,
Yeah.
But I'm really, really close with both my parents, and they still get along really well. There's a lot of history and a lot of interesting stories and what we've traveled in between from when that happened until now. And it really is, it's a beautiful story and it's an unexpected story, which is great. But I grew up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, especially on my mom's side. My grandparents were almost pretty much retired. My grandparents on my mom's side, I had my mom when my grandmother was like 43, which was unheard of back then.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with them because my mom worked as a nurse and my dad worked third shift. So I spent a lot of time with them, learning, the oldies and learning the old school stuff.
We're kind of kindred spirits here a little bit because it's almost to a T what my childhood was like too. My father was a machinist. He had his own business for a long time. My mother was a nurse too, and she worked nights. And we used to spend a lot of our time with our grandparents on my mother's side too. We would go, like, their house was like down the road from our elementary school, so we would walk there every day and
nice.
Get our homework done. They'd babysit us until like parents got out of work or whatever.
never knew what childcare was. Is they had grandparents, you know, they were right there.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I loved my grandparents on my mother's side. They definitely were some great people. And but yeah, no, I my parents divorced when I was a sophomore in high school, and
Yeah.
it was, I mean, like my mother's cool, you know what I mean? My dad, he's a lot better now, but he wasn't back then. And
Yeah.
you know, it's, divorce is just ugly, period. You know what I mean? Like my advice is, like, especially after what I went through, and I'm sure you probably could agree maybe a little bit if anything, but definitely remember the kids if you're going through
Oh
a
yeah.
divorce. You know what I mean? You got to be there for the kids. You can't have the kids choose sides, because that's just a terrible thing to do.
Yeah, the kids end
So,
up becoming the parents almost, you know, and
exactly.
I think that's the worst thing can happen. And like in my case, you know, my parents, my mom knew my dad since she was 2 years old. My Uncle Paul, who's really my cousin, but you know, I call him Uncle Paul. Really close with my mom and my mom's, you know, side of the family. But that was my dad's best friend. So my mom knew him since she was literally 2 years old. And with my parents, it was never really about love. It was a matter of, like we talk about when it comes to substance abuse and things like that. That
Mm.
played a huge role in it, and that was the really deciding factor of a lot of things. So I learned about that stuff on a very very young age, which is, you know, I tell people, you know, we take a lot of hits, but it's amazing what we can give back, you know, from what we learn on stuff. So
Tell me about it. I deal with it every day. You know,
yeah,
like, I've had my share of bad luck, and I'm still here fighting. So,
you're right. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that.
do you suffer from any kind of mental illness, especially like at a young age, your parents separating and everything? Did you get picked on a lot? Like, um,
Yeah, so I mean, a multitude of things. So you know, anxiety, depression, things that, you know, we don't we didn't talk about as much, you know, younger, or know how to classify it, or whatever it was. But also Tourette's also, which was a
really?
huge factor onto the stress and anxiety and depression level. So it was kind of like a ping pong ball, you know, through you know, grade school and high school. Um, and that was like the cherry on top of a lot, you know. And it was this chicken and the egg thing. They would pull from each other, you know.
Mm,
So you had to treat everything all at once, or you couldn't really get you know, a grasp on the symptoms and what was there and what occurred. And it was hard. And later on in life, and I'm sure, you know, get some of that, but, you know, trauma from, you know, other things that happened later on in life, and learning how to kind of deal with those. And I always go back to the word survival, and how we become survivors on stuff and get through things. And sometimes it's not necessarily per se healthy, but it gets us through. And I think
mm,
people forget that sometimes we have to isolate. We have to do certain things to regain our own energy when it's been drained from us over a long period of time. Not good. It's
yeah.
not. But sometimes we need to kind of rejuvenate that energy in ourselves to be able to continue to fight through things. You know.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I've been dealing with a lot of substance previously, you know what I mean? Mainly alcohol. Alcohol was my thing, and finally, I'm, you know, I've cut it down a lot. I was drinking every day.
Yeah.
I cut it down to like the weekends and stuff, like have a couple here and there. And now, you know, since the pandemic and everything, I'm not going out either, which helps.
Right.
So I'm home, but as you can see, I got this fucking elliptical
Right.
back here, you know, like I'm trying to get back into shape and everything. I got a total gym in the other room. So,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm doing good, man. Like mentally, like I'm hanging in there. I'm doing all right. And just staying active helps a lot too. So, you know, I don't know if, you know, you do a lot of active stuff at home or anything like that, but I'm sure you could probably agree that, you know, staying active is definitely good for mental health.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I talked a lot about this in my job, you know, with people, especially working with the guard, because they're split in two categories. So they have 75% civilian life and 25% military.
Mm,
So our coping mechanisms, the way that we cope with things, a lot of us got cut off from it. So it was gym for me. The movies was a huge coping mechanism for me. Music. I mean, there's a lot of things that
mm,
we got unplugged from. So when I talked earlier, when we first started talking about thinking outside the box, you know, those things we talk about, we were like, you know, something like maybe I'd be good at origami. No, that's stupid. Well, maybe if I try it, I enjoy it and I get something, it allows me to cope in a healthy way.
Mm,
Sometimes we would never think about that, but when we're cut off from our usual coping mechanisms, it's very hard to force ourselves to do something outside the box. However, when hopefully we get past this, so we persevere through what's happening. Now
mm,
we've just added another tool to the tool belt, which I think is great, something we wouldn't have thought of. So
exactly.
I try and think in positive ways as much as it is hard,
Mm.
but you can continue to add things that you wouldn't think about if you just, if you just try it.
Right. And like we've said in previous episodes too, like now is like the perfect time to like, explore and try new things and everything. Like I've always been doing art on the side anyway, but now more and more like I'm still working, but I mean I'm
Mhm.
still doing like art on the side. I'm actually working on a Chadwick Boseman
Oh,
portrait piece right
nice.
now, and it's almost finished. I should probably have it done by tonight, hopefully. But it's him in the background, and then a little silhouette of like Black Panther at the bottom, and I
Oh, that's awesome.
couldn't be more happy with the weights. I'll show you a copy of it when we
Yeah, I
get
would
off
love
air.
to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if we're just saying like try some new stuff, absorb some content, maybe check out that movie that you've had on your list to watch for the longest time and just never had time to do
Yeah,
what you got to do to be yourself at the end of the day, you know what I mean, like take care of
100%.
yourself. um so let's talk about Cycle.
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with Cycle, but you did send me some stuff to check out and it's really good. I'm just never in the Rhode Island area, but tell me more about Cycle. How did Cycle start?
So to not, I guess, date myself, but I started the band with some buddies of mine when I was in college, and like I said before, I was a big athlete, and then I had this weird transition where all of a sudden I was the kid who could run until people fell down. I got exercise-induced asthma really bad at the end of my junior year in high school, so I had to quit football. I worked a long time to be able to get to that position to play.
Would you play
So
in football?
I was a quarterback and middle linebacker.
Oh, nice.
And I
Very
played
cool.
since I was a little kid. My dad played. It was just sports were everything to me when I was little. But when I had to quit football because I was literally getting sick from
Yeah.
just trying to, I picked up music. And music always played a very large part in my life since I was a little kid. Thank God my parents, my grandparents, being around it.
Hmm.
Um,
Have
but
you
so
have you
go
heard of
ahead.
it? You've heard of In the Red?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I was their former lead singer before Cody.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I was the guy that pretty much got them established, and then when I stepped down, Cody took over.
Oh,
So
I did not know that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how music comes into play. So my sophomore year in college, I started playing bass first. I'd never sang or anything like that. And I used to help run. I used to be what was called the jam coordinator. So I used to book all the bands in my college, and we ran a coffee house.
Yeah.
So we used to do open mic. So we'd have like four people who were reading books and drinking coffee in the back. I'm like, no big deal. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm gonna get on stage. I'll do a tune. I'll sing. I've never sang into a mic before. So I decided I did U2 with or without you, bass solo and vocals, which no one should do, especially singing for the first time, right? Well, I made the mistake. I was involved in a lot of stuff in college. I told a couple of people. There were like 300 people that showed up to this coffee house.
Oh
People were
shit.
sitting on stage with me, and I had never sang into a mic before. So I did it, and it was probably awful, but the response, people went nuts, and it was
That's all that
everything to me.
matters.
And I was always a writer ever since I was a little kid. I loved writing. So I was like, why not do this? So some buddies of mine got together and we got a band together and we were going to do a battle of the bands. And the promoter came up to us and he's like, oh, we were at another show. And he's like, so glad you guys are on it. We got to do the flyer. What's your band name? All the guys on the band turned to me and I was like, all right. And I always had that name in the back of my head for some reason, Cycle. And I told them and people really loved it. And we've gone through a lot of time. It's 20 years,
The same lineup, or
No,
has it
no.
changed? Okay.
It's the only one who's really been in a lot. Our drummer right now, Jay. Jay and I play together for like 16 years.
Wow.
This particular lineup, we've been together since 2016. And the problem, I think, is that with original music, it's 8 out of 10 times you have heartbreak. And
Oh, yeah.
those other 2 times it's good. And what happens is people start to get the smell of covers and making money off of covers. So what happens is you start to lose people because they want to start making money.
Well,
And
this the scene up here is a lot different too than like the rest of the country, because like if you go like down south or like southwest or whatever, like seeing cover bands is like unheard of. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, there are some tribute bands here and there, but I mean, it's all about original music. For some reason up here in the Northeast, it's like cover bands make more
Cover and
money.
tribute, man.
Yeah, cover and tribute bands make more money than original music, and it's so much harder for original music up where we
Yeah.
live.
And we tell people right off the bat, it's like, listen, this is what we do.
Hmm.
It's what we love to do. So if you want to do something else, that's fine, but it's not going to be here. So keeping that together, I think, was the hardest thing. And with this particular lineup, so I was in another band and another outfit for a couple of years, and what happened was that band kind of dissipated and broke up. And at the time, Jay was the drummer in that band. I'm like, dude, let's get it back together. Let's go back, to the stuff we wrote in 2002, 2003, and let's find some dudes who want to do this. So my bass player Mike was in another band called Human Clay. They were a Creed tribute, incredible Creed tribute. And I
gotta admit, I'm kind of a Creed fan. Like
I am too. No,
right.
man, they write good songs. I don't, but they were such a good band. And we played with them on a New Year's Eve gig, and we became really good friends with Mike and his wife.
Nice.
And so it was great. So immediately when we got together, I contacted Mike, and he's like, I sent him, we had a 5-song demo from years ago, and he loved the tune. So he's like, yeah, let's do this. And then I always say it in interviews, our guitar player, Joe, was the greatest Craigslist find in the history of time. It was the only ad I responded to. And him and I talked on the phone for like 3 hours. And I said, well, what do you really want to do? And he goes, I want to write my own version of Pearl Jam 10. And I said, brother, we are going to be really good friends. And I'll tell you, it's been a blessing. Our chemistry between the four of us is incredible. We're like, I mean, obviously we're like family and stuff, but writing wise, we're just right there. And it's a beautiful thing because it's what you always wanted to feel when you're writing with people,
Dude, I hear you, man. And that sounds awesome, man. Like my time within the Red, I was with them for almost 4 years. And, it was definitely like from the start, like when I joined and everything, just writing, recording, like loving every single second of it. Because at the time I was dealing with a back injury. I actually, I had a work-related accident, and I was out of work. And I was just losing my mind, like staying at home all the time.
Yeah.
And, wasn't making money or anything. So I'm like, you know what? It's been a while since I've done anything musically. Like I've been singing my whole life. And I was like, let me just see what I can get out there. And then that's when Pete from In the Red hit me up, and I auditioned and got the gig. And literally 2 weeks later, we were playing the Webster Theater. I had to learn 8 songs in 2 weeks.
That's not terrible.
Yeah. No stress. You know what I mean? Like no pressure. Right. So yeah, but I mean, like, it was fun. It was fun for a while, and I loved it. And I got to play some really awesome shows, meet a lot of great people who I'm still friends with today. I still talk to, game with now, especially on my Twitch channel, which is weird. Never thought I'd have a Twitch channel, but I'm getting the itch more now than ever to write music again. And I've been talking with some friends myself too. I actually want to put a solo album out before I turn 40. So thankfully,
That'd be awesome, man.
I got some time, thankfully, but
it's a great outlet for energy, man. There's no doubt about it.
Especially like dealing with what I've gone through in the last like 5 years. Like I've got a lot of stuff it just needs to bleed out onto paper already, and I need to get it out. So, but yeah, I love music. I miss music so much. Like just getting on stage and performing in front of thousands of people. Like we opened for Hailstorm back in 2013 in front of a sold out crowd at the Webster, and like it was the middle of July,
right?
Oh yeah, dude. And it was the middle of July too. Stupid hot in there. Like people were passing out from dehydration. It was just it was so bad. But like it was such a great show. And like we've played several other shows with national recording artists, but that one is probably like the best one.
Yeah.
But even the smaller shows too, the more intimate ones, you get people coming up to you that have never heard you before saying, dude, I love your music. I love your voice. Like
it takes one person, it really does.
Yeah. I'm my own worst critic. Like I can't stand the way I sound. Like,
oh my God. Terrell, I'll tell you, I'm lucky when we did the album just recently. I'm lucky that our producer, he's incredible, but man, does he run me through. Holy crap. Mm-hmm. And it's great because he knows what he can get out of me, and he squeezed that stone as much as possible when we're doing it. And I love him for it,
That sounds like my old bass player, Chris from In the Red. Like he would do the same shit to me because we used to record everything ourselves, and he got pretty good at mixing and mastering. But now, since I left the band, they go to Dexter's Lab now here in Connecticut, which is a lot better. Nick Belmore knows what he's doing, and he's a really great producer, and I would like to work with him someday. But back in the day, like Chris would, constantly be like, you can do it again. You can do it again. You got a better one in you. I know. I'm like, dude, I've done this like 10 times already. I'm like, do it one more time. Like,
no word of a lie. We were in the studio, so we'd go in, and usually we try and do like two songs at a time. Because Chris is like, dude, you're a beast. We'll bang through it. It'll be fine. And so we do like, we go verse to chorus, bridge, the whole business, and we get it all done. We do like 10 and 15 takes of each, and then you go, all right, cool, let's do it right from the beginning now that we know what you want it to sound like. And I'm like, oh my God, really? He's like, yeah, now you're warmed up. I'm like, I hate you.
Yeah, I hate
so
that
much.
shit. I hate that. I even hate it more when I'm just like, hey, do you mind if we do all the singing parts first, and then we'll do the screaming stuff, and then he forgets, and then, oh, come on, let's do the heavy part right now. I'm not gonna have a voice by the time I have to sing the rest of it.
Right? I know.
It's like putting a puzzle together. You're like, no, let's start here.
Right.
So,
I hate.
so I have enough power for later. But I totally get it, man. But I miss being in the studio too, man, and just writing and stuff like that. What were some of your favorite shows with Psycle?
God, we've played a bunch of them, and so I can remember back in the day we played. We headlined the Fall River Celebrates America, right on the water, like Battleship Cove, and there must have been 15,000 people there. It was right outside the concession, and I can remember that when we showed up, and of course there's thousands of people, so we show up with all of our gear and our cars and stuff, and all of a sudden we pull up to the gate, and we're like, yeah, we're supposed to be playing today, and this guy, he's got his little walk, and all of a sudden, all these go-karts come out of nowhere. Pull up. They load all of our gear on the go-karts, and they give us the big laminated passes, and we're rolling through the crowd with a lot of our gear. And we get to this massive stage right on the water, and they set up like a green room tent right behind the stage with all the food and everything. So we get on stage, and the stage, I don't know who set up the staging, but it was like a trampoline. So you could run across it, and as you were running, you were bouncing. Like, it was incredible. It was out of control. But we did the Newport Tall Ships Festival outside, which is really cool. But we've played with some really cool acts. Like, we've played with Saving Animal, we've played with Tantric. We just played with we played Boba Flex, that like right before they switched. Now they're called the Lonely Ones. We played with them in New Bedford. But I'll tell you, probably the coolest band we ever played with, and they're even better people than a band, which is hard to believe, is Blacktop Mojo. Those guys, we played with them at Providence. It was cold as hell. Typical New England, there's like 30 people there. Yeah. And those guys played like they were playing a Madison Square Garden, and it was inspiring to watch them. But at the same time, when we did our set, they were right in front watching the whole entire thing. And
that's cool.
That was right, literally. They just got in their big tour bus and everything. And, I'm sure you've played places where, like, the headliners are like, we'll be in our bus, doing whatever. Dude, these guys were right there. And after they got done playing, everyone hung out at the bar, having drinks, telling stories. So, like, we stayed up late. It was just, It was really cool. They were good people. And even better, the musicianship was incredible. So we've been really lucky. Played with some really great players. So
that's awesome, man. My first 2 months within the Red, we played a show up in West Springfield. It was the old Geraldine's in West Springfield. They got a new place now, but we played there. We opened for Triple X, and I'll never forget when we finished our set. I got off stage, and our drummer at the time, he was like, "Yo, you know who that is over there?" And I look over, I see a guy with long hair and a long beard, and I'm like, he looks familiar, but I can't tell with the lighting in here. He's like, dude, that's Ollie from All That Remains. I'm like, what?
Oh, my God, really?
I was like, what? And he says, yeah, dude. So we go over there. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He was like, oh, you guys from the opening act, right? I says, yeah. He says, oh, you guys are really good. I'm like, thank you so much, man.
I can go die now.
Oh, my God, that means a lot. I was like, can I buy you a drink? He was like, I've had a few too many already. I think I'm okay. I'm like, well, can I get a picture at least? He was like, absolutely. So I got a picture with him, and
that's so cool.
Rest in peace, Ollie. And I'm very lucky that I'm actually friends with Jeannie in real life, and her husband Scott. I love those guys from Crossing Rubicon. But it was really sad when Ollie died. It was terrible.
The effect he had on people, and I never get a chance to meet him, but knowing people in the community that were close to him and the way they spoke of him as a person, you could just see the impact that he had. And it's just so sad that, as with a lot of amazing artists, we never get to see what they were going to do next. And I think for me, that's the hardest thing. You don't
Yeah.
know the inspiration that they could have provided, even
Yeah.
more.
Exactly. So let's talk about your new album, Kill the Machine.
Yes,
What was it like recording that?
that was a lot of fun. So one of the things that we do with our rehearsals, we record every single rehearsal. So the writing process for us is the four of us get in a room, we stare at each other's ugly mugs, and it comes from, somebody has a riff or somebody has this. I've told this story 100 times, but the first song on the album, King Without a Throne, right after we finished our EP services and we started writing again, I had brought down a whole skeleton of a song. And this goes to show how we work and the lack of ego that we really try to have. So I brought it down. I played all the parts. I had some lyrics and stuff. And our drummer Jay just goes, "Hey, can you just play that pre-chorus part?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I stop playing it, and he starts coming up with this drum part. And he's like, "I think the song should start there." And we're like, "All right." And it's the only thing we kept of the whole skeleton of the song. So that pre-chorus was the jumping off point to the whole entire song, and it just wrote itself. And I think I want to say Kill the Machine I think that was the second song that we wrote. And it was a riff that we had from warming up before rehearsal. And our guitar player, Joe, records everything and he cuts it up and sends us all the tracks so we can listen back on stuff.
That's awesome. Like bands
Oh.
bands listening right now, take note. Like what these guys are doing for rehearsal is amazing. Like not a lot of people do that. Recording every practice, it helps you stay on point and learn from your mistakes. Like, hey, you did something different here. What'd you do? Let's fix that, or something like that. Like it's good practice to do that kind of stuff.
And you're
it
not
gets
just
you ready
listening
for
for
the
yourself. That's the thing too.
Yeah.
I'm listening for what those guys are doing. So
Exactly.
I can imagine be like, whatever you did at this time, go listen to it because that's incredible. And they can, we can kind of go back. Plus the thing too is if you can't rehearse 3 or 4 nights a week, you need to be rehearsing on your own. So you come back to rehearsal next time with stuff. And I think that shows a lot in what we did. But when we wrote Kill the Machine, the song, that really opened the floodgates, I think, for us for the what we were going for. And I think it was inspiring when we wrote that of how we wanted the rest of the album to progress. And it was so much fun. We wrote 10 tunes, but we kept 8 because we wanted to really feel cohesive. Not that the other songs weren't good. We wanted it to be an album to stand on its own, but we wanted each track to stand on its own also as an album. And so we had everything all set. We recorded the best demos that we could, and we sent it to our producer, Chris Paquette, we worked with again. We worked with Chris on a Services EP too. And Chris loved it. And he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to get you guys down here." So he had those tracks already so he could listen to them and come up with ideas and make notes and stuff before we even stepped in the studio. And then we went in, I want to say we started in August. And I think we finished up right before February, I think. We wanted to do it sooner, but Chris is so booked up with stuff. He's got bands coming from all over the country.
That's awesome.
But
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, right, exactly. So what we did was in August, we went and we did 4 tunes, and then we did 2 more, and then we finished up the last 2 because we were still writing. Like we do want to keep. We had other songs. We're like, we think we still have good songs left in us, and thank God we did because the last 2 songs that we did were a catapult for us writing another album now and where we kind of left off. And it was great. I mean, it was great working with Chris. And the thing that with Chris, I mean, he's a young cat. Chris is only like 25, but he's worked with some pretty impressive people. And the one thing that Chris does really well is he's got a foot in 2 different places. He's got a foot in how things should sound and what the modern ear is looking for.
Yeah.
And then he has that I've listened to the Beatles until my ears bled kind of thing. You know what I mean? So he understands dynamics. He understands not overproducing. And the one thing we sat down before we even recorded, we said, we want this to be a real rock and roll album. We don't want it overproduced. We want it to just sound like us at our best live. But we want it to sound really good. And he's like, "No, I get it." And he listened to the songs and he goes, "This should feel raw. It should feel, produced and polished, but it should have that. It should be able to capture that." And I think we were really happy with what he did and how his process, because he works very quickly, but he knows, because we worked with Chris when we did our EP a couple of years ago in 2017, he knows our strengths and weaknesses and he knows how to push our buttons to get a lot out of us. And I think it's good because with us not having egos, it pushes us to get more out of what we wanted, you know?
Exactly. And you need a producer like that. You can't just walk into a recording studio with someone that, you're just paying to record your stuff and doesn't have any input, because you're not going to get a great product out of it.
No.
You're going to think it's great, but people listening be like, that sucks. Like you need a producer that's going to tell you flat out, that sucks. Try it this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, do it this way. And then like, it's going to push you to have a better product.
And we
So,
didn't want anything. The one thing with us is we didn't want anything that we couldn't reproduce live.
yeah.
Harmonies, everything that made sense. So, like we said, we'd sit there and we go through harmonies, and he'd be like, "Yeah, we could put harmonies all over this, but there's a reason." I remember specifically our song "Last Chance for the Saints." There was a part, I forget exactly where. Oh, it's in like a bridge part, and we laid down a harmony there, and Chris said, "Yeah, that harmony works really well, but the way that I was singing the lead line," he goes, "it almost softens it to a point where when you're listening to the lyric and you're listening to how, the bite you have on the vocals, it almost takes away from that." And we're like, well, I would never even thought of that. And he's like, "We don't need it there." And it was a smart decision where, you can start getting into La La Land, adding stuff in to make it sound big and everything. But I think as a listener, when you hear it, you can hear the conviction more without that part there. And to me, that's important, especially as a vocalist and a lyricist, to get that across,
Very cool. I was actually going to ask you about Last Chance for the Saints. That's a single you guys have out right now. I saw Boston Rock Radio has been rocking it out and everything. Tell us a little bit more about that song.
So "Last Chance for the Saints," that was the second to last song that we wrote in the album. The music came together pretty quickly on that song, it was probably the song that came together the quickest at first. And one thing, our bass player Mike is really the litmus test for us on a lot of stuff, and he always says we're going to play these songs until they feel like a pair of Warning boots, and then we know really what it needs or what it doesn't need. And with that song, we came together quick, and then we really sat with it for a while. But lyrically, for me, that song is really about the whole opioid epidemic, and it's really from a point of view of. And I worked at a methadone clinic as a substance use counselor. I saw it when it first broke in like '08, and I saw how doctors and pharmaceuticals treated these people, and the stories and the human beings I met every day as their counselor. And I saw how they were just negligent in making money off of people, knowing they knew it. They knew everything that was there, and they were utilizing that, and they were covering it up. And the sick thing was that even when they got caught and they lost a lot of money on it per se for pharmaceutical, what they did was they went and created a counter to the drug to sell it, so they would get it on both ends. So a lot of people, if they don't do their research and don't really see past stuff like that, they don't realize the damage it did to people. And that song was really a product of that, and especially lyrically strong. And one thing I'll say is we were very lucky. We worked with a gentleman called his name's Nate Compton. He actually plays in a band called Elysium, and Nate did all of our videos. And when we sent him the song, Nate immediately got right back to me. He's like, "Dude, all of a sudden," he goes, "I got some great ideas for this. I want to do some live footage for it over the lyric video." And I'm like, "Great." And when he sent it to us, I was like, "Oh, dude, you got it. Like, you nailed exactly what we wanted people to get out of it." And we were so happy.
Nice. Very cool. I've done a lot of video editing myself too. I've done like the GoPros on like the guitars and stuff, and live footage with lyric video style stuff too. So I get what, that's really cool. But I do agree about like the opioids thing too, because like I had spinal surgery like 7 years ago, and like I'm not a fan of narcotics, like taking heavy narcotics at all. And for them to like force them down my throat in the hospital, they're like, if you don't take it, we can't discharge you, kind of thing. And then like seeing my prescription after when I had to when I left the hospital, it was like, I forgot exactly what I was taking, but it was some heavy narcotics, and it was like, you got to take this 3 times a day. I'm like, I am not fucking taking that 3 times a day. I'm gonna become a fucking addict. Like, hell
5
no.
days, man.
Yeah, I was like, fuck that. I was like, if I need it, I'll take 1 a day, but I'm taking Advil and then weaning myself off that too. So like, I believe in all natural stuff. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I smoke weed sometimes. I got glaucoma, I kind of need it. But and then I got back pain and everything like that. But I believe in CBD. I take CBD every day. All natural stuff has worked wonders for me. So, but yeah, I stay away from the heavy shit, man. Like, it's not good for you.
And people aren't informed, and I think that's, obviously, being a lyricist to me is everything, regardless of being a singer and guitar player and everything else. It's really important. And I think that's one of the things we were so proud of with this album is that people weren't just listening to music. They were really digging in on the lyrics and and the content. And for me, it was really about educating people and kind of opening their eyes a lot. And for, like you said, with Boston Rock Radio, we work our ass off. We worked with an amazing publicist on this album. We got a lot of really amazing reviews and stuff. But for that song to hit even in the top 10, never mind number 1 on Boston Rock Radio, was such a blessing. It was incredible, and for me, it was just really about listeners hearing it and getting something from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most we could ask for. And having that, and we were just really, really lucky and blessed to have that.
I appreciate that more in lyrics, especially because do you do all the writing yourself for lyrics, or is it like a joint thing?
We write all the music together, but those guys, they know, they just
the lyrics are yours.
Yeah, they're all mine.
Cool. Yeah, when I was still within the Red, I would do most of the writing, but like Pete would come in and have lyrics for a couple songs, and like we would kind of like flip flop, but like his writing style and my writing style were two completely different things. Like he was more like a party rocker, like Van Halen, like style lyrics, and I'm like, that's not like how I write. I write more meaningful, hopeful things. I like to connect with people that might be going through shit. And writing about my own experiences. So you could definitely tell, like, older in the Red, like what songs I wrote and what songs Pete wrote. But it's not saying anything bad about Pete or anything, but
but I know what you're saying though. It's almost like Van Hagar and Roth.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, right, exactly.
Let's go take a ride.
Right.
It's fucking hated that song.
Time, like exactly. You're like, here we go,
exactly. But like I would just hate it when, like, they would have an idea, like, musically, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to go home. Like, we got a rough demo of it. I'm going to start writing. I come in next practice. He's got lyrics. And I'm like, God damn. I was like, Pete, like, this is my job. Like, let me fucking write the song.
See, that's, to me, I'm like a kid in the candy store. It's like early Christmas for me. So when we get together, it's funny because our drummer Jay says all the time, he goes, I don't know how you do it, man, but we'll just start jamming on something and you just jump on the mic and start scatting like random stuff. And he goes, and I end up keeping like pieces of it because there's too much. There's like, I always say I've got like 15 committees going on in my head all at one time, and there's always stuff to say. And to me, I go home. So now, like you said, I've got a rough demo of it, and I go, I can sit down and dig in and hear the melodies and start really digging into it. And it's just, you can feel that pouring out when you really get on the roll, and it's like that puzzle piece, and it starts fitting together, and you're like, oh, this is so awesome. It's such a great feeling.
I don't know if you do this, but like, I'm gonna start getting more into it now too. It's like when you have the music and you just like listen to it on repeat, you just start mumbling and like making up gibberish, but you do it in like different keys to like match it up with the music. And then from there you listen to that, and it doesn't make any sense to you, but you just listen back to that, and then you start writing lyrics to it to like fit up with that. And it just like you said, puzzle pieces, like it all just fits together. And like that's something I'm getting more into now that I never used to do. And apparently a lot of other vocalists do that too when they're writing. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Instead of me trying to figure out lyrics like on the spot, like, how about you figure out where the placement of the words are going to go first and then think about the words.
See, for me, my writing style is really weird because what I do is, even when I'm not writing, I get these phrases or ideas or these almost like song title kind of things, like very particular hook-centric phrases. And I always have my phone on me, and I have my little notepad inside, and I can be in the shower and I'm like reaching out and writing stuff down. And I keep those. So what happens is when we get a bulk of music, I'll sit down and a melody will pop in my head based on the music I'm listening to. And a lot of times it matches up, probably subconsciously, which is insane, but to those phrases. And once I have the phrase and it feels good, then it makes me think about what that phrase means or where it's going, where it came from. And then the song develops usually from there.
Gotcha.
But I always have little notes and little things and stuff like that. But even like when we're doing something, I'm just scatting over the top. There might be a couple of things that come out, and it might not be that lyric, but that melody will generate something.
Right.
And then yeah, writing pieces down, you know.
I do the same thing too. If like I can't play guitar anymore to save my life. I dabbled a little bit in high school, but like I never stuck with it. I just stuck with singing. But like I'll and it sucks. Like it sucks because like I'll have a melody in my head and I'm like I can't fucking play it. Like how am I gonna do this?
Right, I
So
know.
like I'll pull out like a tape recorder and like maybe hum it or something like that. And then if
Yeah.
lyrics pop on my head, I'll type them down and like save them for a rainy day or something like that. But yeah, no, I totally get it, man. I do the same shit. So
That's why I'm lucky with the band that we have and those guys, because I'm in the band, but I'm a huge fan of all their playing.
Mm.
And it's very inspiring to sit and listen back to rehearsals and go, oh, what was that? Or even like the next week when some comes down, like, where did you come up with that? Or you need to keep that, or, you know, and we'll push the envelope. You know, we'll try stuff, even if we don't think it's going to work. We'll try it to see what it sounds like. I'm like, well, maybe if we don't do it quite that way, but what if we do this? It's just so much fun to have that chemistry and be open. You know, we're okay with saying, no, it doesn't really work. And we're like, yeah, you're probably right. You know, it's not like, well, that's my part. That's my pre-chorus. And this is how it's going to be. That has never happened once since we've been writing together. It's always been like, all right, well, what can we do better? What can make the song better? You know, and I mean, one of the first thing we put out on our first EP, the chorus was written by our drummer, who's an incredible musician, guitar player to begin with. But we were playing it, trying to figure out, and he goes, puts his drumsticks on. He goes, give me that guitar. I give him my guitar, and he plays this thing, and I go, what's that? And I'm like, go back behind the drums. Go. I'm like, I got it. And then that was our chorus. You know,
That's
it was
awesome.
just that quick inspiration with stuff was fun. And we all do that. Like our rhythm section goes back and forth. Our bass player Mike will be, Jay, how about this pattern? And he'll try to like, you know, scat it out. And Jay will be like this. And he's like, yeah, that. And we've got it all recorded. We're like, yes, we're not going to lose it, you know?
Nice. Well, it sounds like you guys are like all pretty tight together, you know, like and get along pretty well. I mean, like I'm sure you guys probably have your rough days too, but I mean, like, how do you guys like keep from like for me, for instance, like when I was still within the Red, for instance, like I left in at the end of 2015 because of, you know, differences in the band and everything, and just like I kind of feel like we ran our course because we were getting looked at from record labels, and we were basically told we had a generic sound, and plus, I hate to say it, but a couple of the guys were pretty old, and we were told that too.
Right.
So they were like, nobody's going to sign you. So it was kind of like a damper, and then like tension started building in the band, and like people started bickering and stuff like that. And we were still trying to push forward, but you know, just things happen, and then like you're like, all right, you know what, I just want to dip out before things get worse. I don't want to wind up hating people or anything like that. So I left, my bass player left, and then that's when Cody joined, and then they went through several other bass players after that. But but anyway, how do you keep the guys together and like, you know, no drama free and stuff like that? You know, maybe give some advice for bands out there.
I think all four of us so different personality wise. And I think we've learned to appreciate each other. You know, I say this all the time. There's so many people in my life, and I think we need this globally to think this way, but I'm just saying that out loud.
I'm probably going to agree with you, but
you can love people, but you don't have to love everything about them.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yep.
And I think when you make the decision to allow somebody into your life, you have to accept that person, not for who you think they can be, but for who they are. And I think when you start getting into picking and poking what you like about someone, what you don't like about somebody, sometimes you just have to look and be like, listen, I know this person's a prick, or this person's stubborn, or this person is who they are. But at the same time, it's who they are. And you love them for the whole thing, not just what's good. And I think with us, we still learn every single day how each other tick. We try to have appreciation and respect for each other, our opinions and our lives and things like that. And sometimes it's hard, you know, sometimes it's not, but I think we realize that we have something special with the four of us in the way that we write and the music that we love to create. And I think we try to keep that in check, that, you know, we're not Motley Crue. We're not, you know, no one's sleeping with somebody's wife. No one's stealing someone's money. No one's crashing someone's car. No one's, you know, knifing somebody in the back. We're all going to make mistakes with people. But I think if we own up to it and we say, listen, I'm sorry, or, you know, this didn't come across the way I wanted it to, I think you have to be open to that, and you have to be respectful of people and who they are. And I think when you get away from that, that's when you start to build animosity. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard to talk about difficult things. But I think as you become closer and you become more open and inviting to that, not only does it get rid of the tension, but I think it gives you an extra outlet. It gives you an extra safe space, personally, not just music wise. And I think that's we've been through some stuff, and I think it's made us better, and it's made us connect more. And I think it's given us an appreciation for what we produce as four musicians together. And like you said, there's good days and bad days, but I think we have a lot of laughs. I mean, if you listen to our rehearsal, if it's 2.5 hours long, 45 minutes to an hour of it is probably a lot of Caddyshack references, Anchorman, a lot of Star Wars talk.
Nice.
Tons of Star Wars talk. I mean, it's one of those things where, someone will say a phrase or something from like Major League, and then all of a sudden we're off and running, and it's just constant laughter. And I think we're able to kind of break things down that way. Like, nor will I. We'll be in like a text message conversation with all of us, and somebody will just send like an airplane reference from the movie Airplane, and then it's like, well, here we go. That's 2 weeks worth of jokes coming out now, And I think we keep things light, and we enjoy each other's company too.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's awesome that you're a nerd at heart too, man.
I'm
a huge nerd.
Oh my God. If I had a tattoo that was, sparkling on my head that said nerd, it would be right there. We're all there. Well, we're all there besides Joe. Joe, our guitar player, sometimes looks at us and he goes, "What movie are you guys referencing now?" Joe's like, he's prototypical Joe Cool. He sits back. He's just cool, just likes to enjoy his Narragansett beer and hang back and just do his thing. And he's just.
But you're all like silently judging him in the corner, like, "Oh, he's here. Like he's not a part of the clique." I'm just playing. But
he's really like, I have no idea what movie.
He's not a cool club here, with the rest of us.
Yes, we're screaming about Star Wars and every other thing, and he's just like, "Okay, guys, we got to play this next song." He's like, "We're cool." We have a lot of fun, man. We really do.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, so let's talk about future plans, and then we'll talk about some plugs for you and wind it down here at the end of the show. So what do you guys got down the pipeline? I know things are kind of calming down here at New England a little bit. I know. There have been some outdoor festivals already for some shows. My friends from Fear the Masses just played an outdoors event in New Hampshire not too long ago. That was totally COVID restrictions and everything. Everybody had to wear masks and social distance and all that other stuff. And it seemed like it went off pretty well. But, I don't know what you guys have for future plans, but what do you guys got going on?
We'd love to play a bunch. We just had our last show of the year canceled. We were supposed to open up for Lit.
Man.
Yeah, we were really excited too because we had met those guys back in the day, and they're just such cool people. And that's when I really first started with that. When My Own Worst Enemy came out, that was like when we first started the band. And it was going to be at the Vault in New Bedford, which is a great venue. That's where we play with Bubble Flex.
Nice. And
we were looking forward to that. And that just got moved to next June. I'm like, oh, great. I guess we'll just wait.
Well, hopefully there's a vaccine by then.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
The one that was obviously we'd like to look into shows, but the one thing we did was we're like, all right, boys, let's do what we do best. We got right back and started writing, and we already almost 3 songs. We're getting into like probably a 3rd song of this next album, and I got to be honest, man, it's really exciting because we went to a different place writing wise, and I think it was a really big jumping off point. The last track on the album on Kill the Machine, White Flag. Was not a departure, but we kind of really pushed the envelope on it, and it was like, wow, that kind of felt good. And we've gone into a territory of a darker, deeper, heavy blues kind of rock thing, and it was a lot of fun. And we're having a really good time writing, and it's amazing the stuff that's just coming out quick. So we're just gonna put our heads down. We're gonna keep writing, man. And then by the time we play shows, we'll be like, this is our new album. This is our new album, be like, guess what? Here it is,
Nice.
But yeah, I think we're just back in a writing mode, and we're gonna, jump on any show or whatever we can get on to get out and play this album live, which is, what we really want to do.
I think that's the best thing right now is to especially if you're a musician, is just write new music right now and just to worry about getting tighter as a group together, because once, things start opening again and people start booking shows, you guys are going to stand above the rest, you know, just going to blow people away.
Yep.
You know?
And that's what we're trying to work on, the stage show and all that point. And like you said, you can sit there and bitch about shows getting canceled, but it's like, listen, that's not going to change. It's bigger than you. But so put your energy in something that you can have some say in, and it's writing music and getting better. And that, like you just said, you know, we want to come out smoking. Like when we
Exactly.
get that next show, I want people's eyes to roll in the back of their head. You know, that's what we want, and so that's what we're working towards.
There you go. Awesome. Well, let's bring this to a close now. What do you want to plug?
So we would love people to go and listen to the album. Please go. The easiest way to find us, and we did it this way specifically for all the ADD children of the 90s. If you go to our website at psyclemusic.com, before you even get into the website, it has all of our links for any way that you can get the stuff. It even has a music player that's on there. And obviously, if you go to YouTube, you know, the album's on there. All the music videos are on there. Just go and listen, you know, take a listen and get in touch with us. Let us know what you think. We love getting feedback, good, bad, or indecent. You know, we want to know how it's affecting people and hopefully helping people. And that's all we can ask for. So, but big thanks to yourself. Big thanks to our producer, Chris. We worked with our publicist, Shauna O'Donnell, who is absolutely just an angel. We had a lot of amazing people, Nina McCarthy, and everyone from Boston Rock Radio, Wayne, and just radios, stations across that have helped us out since the album came out. We want to send a big thanks out to everybody there.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm glad Nina got you in contact with me. I met her a while back when I was kind of like out of the scene for a little bit, but like I met Boston Rock Radio. I think I met her actually when I was in Devil Inside. That was the band I was in after In the Red for about a year before I like stepped away from music completely for a while. But yeah, I think that's about the time I met her. But they're great people, Boston Rock Radio. I love them.
She's been a godsend. I mean, Wayne too, but she's like family. I mean, She really is. And you know, she's good to so many people, and she's always available. That's the best thing about her is her availability and her love for music in general. And, you know, we owe her so much because she's really helped us a lot and really believed in us, which is great. But there's been a lot of people too that we've been really lucky to work with and get a lot of great feedback from. So hopefully we can get out there on a stage and let people hear it, you know.
Hell yeah. Well, you know, when things start calming down a little bit, if you guys are playing anywhere near me, I'll definitely come out and check you guys out. So
no doubt, we'd love to have that, man.
All right. For those of you watching at home, thanks for watching. You can hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that bell icon to get notified every time we drop a new video. We are also an audio podcast as well. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Apple, on Google, or wherever you guys get your podcasts from. We're pretty much available on all the major podcast networks. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled Podcast to stay up to date with everything going on with the podcast. We got merch. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt right now. Free advertising. Yeah, let me move my mic out of the way so you can see. We got merch on TeePublic, people. Click that link in the description here. Proceeds go towards funding this podcast. You could get t-shirts, onesies, hoodies, mugs, cell phone cases, whatever your heart desires in any color you want, pretty much. It's just this logo on everything. So please head over to TeePublic and buy some merch to help this podcast out. You can check me out at JR Buckle Gaming on Twitch and check out my portfolio at www.alanmpelletierjr.com. Also, email us. Email the show, roadswetravelpodcast@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions, comments, or questions for past or future guests or anything like that, we're probably going to do some more roundtable talks in the future. I'll probably bring on some guests from the past and everything and answer some questions. So email us there. So, Seth, this was great, brother. I'm sorry I was running a little late today, but I'm glad we got to do this, and I'm glad I got to meet you and everything. And yeah. I'm definitely gonna come see you guys once things calm down and shows come out. And
I appreciate that, man. No, thank you so much for having us on. And I might be going on to get one of those onesies for one of the guys in the band. So
all right, cool. Appreciate it. All right, brother. You take care.
All right, man. Thanks.
Bye.